Monday. Yep. I don't know. Lucky Day. Yeah, we watched that one, and it's like, another Dr. Light episode. I don't know. I'm gonna save my review for this weekend. But apparently, yeah, some things are gonna come to a head in episode 6, according to the leaks, and I'm really hoping those aren't true. The shrieks. Oh, like I said, it wasn't horrific or anything. It's just, I don't know. I'm going to rewatch that one again before I review it. Because sometimes I catch things on the second airing. Ugh. Oh. Yeah, it's just, the twist was interesting. But come on. Unit would have had, come on. Has Unit really gotten that bad that they didn't have a kill switch for the local internet? Or, they couldn't throw a thing and boom, all your live streaming goes dead. That's what I was thinking. Because if you're out on an op, the last thing you want is a bunch of people standing around with phones broadcasting panic to all over the planet. And I'm sitting there thinking, come on, the second this guy revealed he had a camera, all you have to do is snap your fingers and all the cameras go dead. That would have been far more interesting. Yeah, Think Tank. Yeah, we remember that happy bunch of, people. That was echoing in the backside of my brain somewhere, where the spiders live. About, Think Tank. That's what I mean. Or you can just throw a switch and you jam out all the cellular, say, within a so many block radius. And because to me, it's like, all right, now we're on camera. Now you've got this guy walking around in Unit HQ with a camera, and then I got that, like, what? I know Sony was remarking, too many people know about Unit. It's like, yeah, you're not kidding. You thought it was bad enough back in the day when, even before the internet, you had a big fat sign out in front of your secluded headquarters that said Unit HQ. Now you've got a Unit tower. I'm really hoping she's not. The reason why is I don't want that bi-generated Ronnie story to be true. I really don't. Because the bi-generation thing, okay, let's say it happens once every so many, but to say that it happened to 2 Time Lords and how many generations, no. That's what one of the leaks is the Ronnie bi-generated Miss Flood's one part, and apparently this upcoming Asian actress is the other original part. And it's like, okay, I don't mind if you regenerate a character, especially given the fact Kate Mara is no longer with us. But I was really hoping those weren't true. I was really hoping they got fed some disinformation but the only good thing is that apparently Susan's going to appear in the last episode or something like that. But it's like, but did they refer to Susan Triad or did they refer to Susan Foreman? That's the clever thing about those leaks. They didn't mention a last name. I'm going to have to go back and reread that. And like I said, I still wonder what the BBC's big fat beef with Carol Ann Ford is, that she's never reappeared on the show. She reappeared in An Adventure in Space and Time, but that, of course, that was not that character. She was just this yelling mom in one scene. And that's what I mean. I think that was part of the leak, is screwing with you. That it's actually going to be Susan Twist. But like I said, the only one I'm worried about is, please do not tell me you're going to bi-generate the Ronnie. The bi-generation thing was bad enough the first time they did it. And now they're going to do it with a villain. Just, oh, look, I'm so clever. No, you're not. You're using another trope. Ugh. I don't know, but if these leaks turn out to be true, then yeah, my gut feeling is going to be true also, that Shooty's getting out of here. Like I said, I've also got this gut feeling they're going on hiatus now that the 20th year of the new series has been quote unquote finished. That yeah, they're going to go on a mini hiatus. And the thing is, what's the definition of mini? You've had people jumping up and down going, the show needs a rest, the show needs a rest, but the majority of the fandom's like, why? And I'm loving how they're still using overnight ratings as the excuse, and it's like, the show's still making money. That's all that matters. Yeah, he got a lot. Yeah, they did a lot more things with his character this season, but look at what they did. Sometimes it takes a while for them to get a doctor situated, on his feet and rolling. Remember, Capaldi, how he first started out versus how his character, his version of the Doctor ended. You see what I'm going there? And you got to give a character time to develop. And there's a lot of folks out there who just don't want to have the patience to wait. It's yeah, we finished we finished the second episode of Last of Us this weekend, and like I said, here's the thing though. Somebody a long time ago, people were putting together like the cutaways of the videos, so I knew this was going to happen with Pedro Pascal's character. But now the big challenge is, how far are they going to be able to make it without Pedro Pascal? But well, okay, yeah, Shooty's going to be like Colin Baker 2.0. Yeah, but remember, they not only heap blame on Colin, they also heap blame on Sylvester McCoy. And once again, his character, just as they were turning the curve, or getting things turned around and getting things on track, before the Cartmel master plan had a chance to even really kick in, the show was canceled. And well, the thing is with UNIT is, how can it laughably even call itself a secret organization? Well, you can't talk about this. Well, why can't I talk about it? It's on the evening news. It's one of the reasons I didn't like, Era of the Zygons, the 8th anniversary special, aka Dump of the Doctor. And they flew a police box right in broad daylight in front of everybody and their mother, and then landed it right there in the front of everyone and their mother. And that was your big opener? Well, I've been told we're going to see another New Who Doctor, in the last episode, but nobody's named who it is. But like I said, there's some things, I'm glad, I don't know. Well, I don't know, will RTD be able to top that big reveal that Chibnall did, with the Master? And because nobody saw that coming. And then when they got fooled, it was too soon. Not already. I actually saw that in a reaction video. Not already. What happened to what about Missy? Because everyone was living in that dream world that Missy was the last incarnation of the Master. Please, folks, the Master has a backup plan for everything. Well, like I said, if it comes true, like I said, it's just something I heard. It wasn't included with the regular leaks. But like I said, you never know. Because like I said, getting information out of Bad Wolf is very difficult. Because, I don't want anybody to get fired. I don't want anybody to lose their job just for somehow making sure that a middle-aged guy who flies under the radar on the other side of the planet, just got them fired. It's like I said, I'm not making any money off this. It's like, sure, I get the occasional check for like $100, but that's about it. And I don't reinvest it into the channel. Well, it didn't really happen that much, but like I said, somebody must be getting something from somebody. And so far, like I said, they're not doing too bad on this list of leaks that they've put out there. And like I said, I'm just really hoping that the Ronnie bi-generation thing is a misinformation to throw them off. Well, I don't blame Chris Chibnall, if he never came back to this show, because the poor guy, the minute there was announced that he was bringing in a female doctor, it was like a new target had been set up on the artillery range. It was like every single thing he ever did was bad suddenly. And I'm like, guys, unlike your other previous showrunner, he had actual showrunning experience. And that was one of the things they bitched about Moffat. He has no actual experience running a television show. He's just a good writer. And then with Chibnall, he's a bad writer. It's all the bad writing. Jodie Whittaker can't act. Yeah, let's see how many roles has she had now versus a lot of the other New Who actors. Ugh. Well, a lot of people were pissed off because Russell T Davies didn't just come in and automatically overwrite the Timeless Child. And even I was sitting there saying it's not going to happen. And they're like, well, how do you know it's not going to happen? I said, very simple. Because when Moffat brought back Gallifrey, RTD was pissed. Because he doesn't believe in overwriting other people's work. And him and Chibnall have been friends for years. So I knew he wasn't going to overwrite the Timeless Child story arc or any of that. Well, I think it would have been better if it turned out to be, the whole thing about the Doctor being the Timeless Child was a scapegoat. Because remember, the Doctor was one of the notorious renegades, and somebody threw that into the Matrix so that if ever got out, blame the Doctor, everyone else does. And meanwhile, the real Timeless Child is still safely anonymous. That's the way I would have done it. That's what I think also. I think Joe Martin's Doctor should have been like, the devious, or you call it, type Doctor that came between 2 and 3, or, season 2 point whatever, or the Series 6B thing, like I said, I think that's what it should have been, but what can you do? Oh, well, folks, I'm way over time. I got to get inside. Please be kind, be calm, be safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll catch you later. Take care, everyone. And I'll see y'all hopefully tomorrow morning.